Okay, so welcome to the lettings module of the 365 for housing, free solutions to housing and public sector. We start here with the sales hub. Now, you can do this process in the customer service hub or create something like this, but I'm trying to use as much of the out-of-the-box functionality as possible. So I've hopped from the customer service app or hub into the sales hub. So this process will take us from a lead, so anyone who potentially wants to live in one of our properties, they might view a couple, they might pass to us from the local authority, or they might be on our own waiting list. Either way, you've got the information there, and they're held as leads. Now, what happens when we qualify the lead in sales term? We essentially say we're happy for them to become a proper contact in our system, which obviously makes it easier for us to manage our data. And then we move on to the opportunity area, and I'll walk you through each bit of this process. So we're going to make the assumption that Bruce has been in contact and he's interested in one of our properties. We can put information about the obviously him, his needs. So he's one adult and there's two children with him, and his local authority, or the local authority who's been involved, is Eastleigh. You can then start putting detail about Bruce's address. And we'll give him a postcode. And he's here in the UK. So we can save that as well. Now from here, what we're able to do is find out a bit more about Bruce's needs. So we can say the number of bedrooms he needs. We can say it's 2. He's after a terrace house, but again, there's options to select others. And there might be some additional property requirements that he has. So he may need a slope to the back door, for example. And again, all these you can add and remove as you see fit. The county you'd like to live in, so either Hampshire or Kent. And the towns required is either Sheerness or Eastleigh. And the tenure we're going to run with is the assured short hold. Now, as you can see, this because it's part of the sales process, you could actually manage the sales of properties through this route. But I'm really focusing on just the main tenancy side of things at the moment. So we're going to save that. Now, at this point, we might want to arrange a viewing. So this record can be used to hold as many viewings as you see fit. So property 1 may not be suitable, so Bruce might go and view another property of ours. So he'd do all that, and that would all be tracked against this one lead. So we've got all the detail in one place. Obviously put your date and time, and we can save and close that. So now if Bruce phones up and says, I'm due to meet Chris, can't remember what time or what property, you can then obviously go into the appointment to view that detail and give them the time and date over the phone. So we're going to make sure that's all now been complete. And we'll close that off. Now the next thing we might want to do, we could have done this during the viewing, is an ID check. So I've built a custom entity here. Which allows us to do just that, really, to check any ID of any new let, or if we get a new person moving into the property maybe at a later stage, we're in that position to carry out a quick little ID check. So we go through here, we looked at his license and we took the reference number off it, and we saw the original, and we'll just complete that. And again, we've got a nice little audit there of how we've been working with Bruce. Now, he's told us he's available to move today, and he's actually interested in the property and wants to progress things. So what we can do is create an income expenditure. There'll be another video about this, but what it enables us to do is identify if there's any support that Bruce may require when he moves into one of our properties, and just gives us a feel for his current financial situation. When all our checks are complete, we can put an appropriate date in there, and if he's happy to progress, we can put the date that he's agreed. Most importantly, we can then say what property. So obviously this will be the final property he's viewed and he's happy to run with, and we can say that's all good. Now we're going to qualify this. So we're going to say that the checks have been completed. Now what happens at this stage is we move now into what's known as the opportunity, or how we'll use it as managing the tenancy sign-up process. So what you can see is a mixture of system functionality and a workflow created has pushed through a lot of the detail from the lead. So we can now see the property, we can see the weekly rent, and we can see obviously the name, when it's ready for viewing, and if it's a short-term void, long-term void, medium-term void. The property itself has been adapted as well to include information. So I'm now on the property record. It's been adapted to include information about voids. So we've got a void start date, when it was advertised, who the contractor is that's doing the work. You can put when they collected the keys and when they returned them, when it's ready for viewing, and of course the void end date will be when the property is actually let. We've also got some detail about the property, and we can create little videos to show the property that we could then share with the customer, so they get a feel for what that property looks like before they move in, and if they're not quite comfortable, not available to do a face-to-face viewing. Again, that takes us through the whole property. We'll just nip back to the opportunity now. So we've seen the property, and again, as someone in the lettings team, you'll probably want to refer back to that just to get some key information. But this will be updated, so as soon as that's ready to let, it'll appear there, which is quite a handy little function there. We can then walk through and say, right, okay, Bruce has decided to have a second view of the property. Quite right, if you're going to live there. So we're going to do a second viewing. We do 8 o'clock. That's excellent. So we'll save and close that. It does actually notice here that I'm unavailable because it identifies that my previous appointment is going to clash. So quite a handy bit of functionality there if it's for the same person. But you can see now my second appointment's there for the second viewing. We can still see all the trail of information there, and here the little assistance kicked in. So again, this is out of the box functionality, but quickly you can see there that the second viewing's upcoming at 8 o'clock. So again, if Bruce phones up and says can't remember what time or any information, you'll quickly see the information there to provide him. And again, we're going to complete our appointment, and Bruce agreed on the spot that he loved the property. He has no second thoughts about it. And we've got detail here about any potential benefits that he'll be applying for. And we've got the date his tenancy was signed. Our move-in date might be Friday. And the deposit paid. So if that's appropriate, you put that in there. And the rent due date, just so he knows when it's due each month. If for whatever reason the move was cancelled, you can put that date there, and you can also put a reason for cancellation. So we'll save that. You can see now it's closed, the notification has disappeared. So at this point, we're going to say we've closed this as 1 because he's decided to move in. Here we go, the status reason is moved in, and we can click OK on that. Now the good thing is, what's happened is when we create the opportunity, it automatically creates a contact called Bruce Smith. Now when we close the opportunity, there's a workflow in place which will update Bruce's contact information. So we can see here we've got Bruce Smith, we've got all his detail there, and we can see the address of the property as well that he's moved into. So all that detail has been updated. We can see that obviously the opportunity is closed, but it's also actually created a task. So now we've got a task to remind us that in 3 weeks' time we've got to book a 4-week visit. So you've got that detail there. You could then start having the conversation with Bruce to make sure he's okay after sort of recently moving in. The workflow also created a tenancy, so we can see here tenancy number I've just used is name and rent at the moment, the type and the start date, and obviously the property. So we've got all that in one place. We can also see the actual opportunity or the lettings process. So if we ever need to refer back to that, we can do. But again, it's all in one place. And for whatever reason, if he wanted to move again, we can go back and create a new letting opportunity and follow the process again. But at no point do we then lose all this information. So you might decide not to bother doing an ID check, for example, because he's only recently done one. So that's an overview of this this new module. And of course, all the information you see here can be reported on, which is great via views and dashboards. If you look at the previous videos, you'll see that sort of detail. And we can go off and add more detail to Bruce's record. So his company name he works for, his job title, if that's all appropriate, and any financial information there we can update. And obviously any personal details, but it's all there in one place. So we can see there we have the whole process from lead to opportunity to tenancy. Thanks for watching.